During the 2017 national elections, no woman was voted into Parliament, and with the 2022 national elections coming up, the issue of lack of women in Parliament was raised by the Parliamentary Committee on Gender-Based Violence. Apart from addressing issues of GBV, they have other priorities, and one of them is to support moves to have more representation of women in Parliament. As of 1st of February 2019, Papua New Guinea was one of only 3 countries in the world out of 235 that had no woman in its legislative branch of Parliament.
We continue to advocate for the special temporary measures around reserved seats for women in Parliament. It's a controversial topic, and there is no perfect solution to this issue. But we feel strongly, especially after the comments made by the Prime Minister, that something needs to be done, even if it's an interim measure, to make it easier for women leaders to come to the floor of Parliament, where today there are no representation from women in the floor of Parliament, despite the fact that women make up slightly more than 50% of the population.
Committee member Powers Pakop says there has been a lot of talk about the 22 reserved seats for women in Parliament, but that might not be the case due to the Constitution not allowing for more than 120 seats.
The Constitution only allows for 120 seats. So if you are going to recommend 22 new seats on top of 111 now, that's going over the constitutional provision of that, only limits us to 120. We've got to change the Constitution again, so it's going to be another mind-boggling exercise.
Despite a slow process in making some progress to address the lack of women elected into Parliament, the committee is consulting the Prime Minister and other relevant government bodies to prioritize the issue.
There's a process underway, as you know, with the Boundaries Commission. There's the Attorney General is looking at different ways to structure legislation to make that possible. So it's quite a process, and it is not looking very likely, but we continue to advocate for it, and we continue to push Justice Minister, push the Attorney General, which is the Secretary for the Department of Justice, remind the Prime Minister of those commitments, and if it is at all possible, the Parliamentary Committee will be supporting the legislation that is required to make that possible for a temporary measure to facilitate that process, and ultimately, of course, it becomes the normal democratic process, open process.
Committee Chairman Charles Abel says that the Prime Minister has suggested a way forward to have more representation of women in Parliament, and it will be looked at closely.
But in this case, the Prime Minister talked about 5 regional seats for women, and there's been a lot of discussions about how that would actually happen, but that is also a measure that we continue to support.
Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV News.